Today's video is sponsored by Native Sons Goods, makers of premium quality guitar, bag, and camera straps, handmade in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Check out their website to order your own custom creation and play in style. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel, and I sure appreciate it.
$5 is all my mom allows me to spend.
Hello boys and girls, Brad the Guitologist here. In today's video we are going to talk a little bit about the importance of humidity, particularly when it pertains to your guitars and other acoustic instruments. Humidity is extremely important. It's something that often gets overlooked. I live in the middle of the United States, in the state of Kentucky, which is on the borderline of the South and the Midwest. And in this particular climate, throughout the summer months, most of the spring and most of the fall, I don't have to worry about humidifying my home or humidifying my guitars because there's usually, in these months, plenty of humidity already in the air. In fact, if you step outside on a typical day in Louisville, Kentucky, you are going to get smacked in the face with plenty of relative humidity, to the point that, you know, it's almost tough to breathe at times.
It's hot as a bitch out here.
There are certain days where you go outside and the relative humidity will be above 50% very easily. So it's usually not a problem until you enter into the winter months, and when you start turning on your heater, and it's getting about that time of year where everybody's starting to turn on their heater, and what used to be a relative humidity reading in my house of closer to, you know, 40 to 45% has dropped significantly. Right now I'm in my basement and I'm reading 30%. Now if I were to take this hygrometer upstairs, I would be reading something more in the 20s. It can very rapidly drop off, the relative humidity. Now for acoustic guitars, if you have a lot of really nice acoustic guitars and you want to keep them that way, you are going to have to figure out some way to humidify your instruments. You can do it for your entire house. Some houses have humidifiers built into your HVAC system, and also we're going to talk about other ways that we can humidify your instruments if you don't have such a system in your entire house. One of the first things you're going to definitely want to get is a hygrometer like this. And these are very cheap. I mean, I think I gave under 10 bucks for this. It was probably even cheaper than that. It runs on a AAA battery. It has a magnet, so it'll stick up on your fridge if you want it to. But you'll want to keep it in the same room that you keep your most valuable instruments. Maybe even put it in the case with the instrument if you're keeping it in the case. Here's an example of an older style hygrometer, something that you may have seen like in your grandparents' house or something like that and always wondered what it was. Well, that's what it is. This has indicators for relative humidity, which is indicated down here. You can see this one's just below the 40% mark, but I'm reading on this one 30% relative humidity, and I trust this one probably more than I trust this old analog thing. I wouldn't rely on this one too much, just simply because it can be high or low. I want to talk about a couple of systems of hydration for your guitars if you're going to keep them in their cases and try to hydrate that way. This is one system that is sold by Planet Waves, and this is basically just a piece of, it's just a plastic case. Let's see, how does it come apart? I'm trying to remember how it comes apart. Maybe this is not the one that comes apart. They sell some of these that actually, well, the top will come off and you can take the sponge out. But inside of this unit there is a sponge. They may have actually started making these so you can't get the top off because they don't want you replacing the sponge. They would rather just you replace the whole unit. So I'm guessing that's what they've done. But used to, they would make these where the top just popped right off and you could take the sponge out. But inside of this little housing there's a sponge, and you have two little grooves right here. You can see one groove here and one groove here. Well, what those are for is for sliding this thing down right in between your strings of your acoustic guitar, and the strings will actually will pop into these little slots, and it'll hold this thing right down in the sound hole so it doesn't move around, it doesn't touch the sides of the guitar, but it sits right down inside of the sound hole and will humidify your guitar as long as it's in the case. You will just add some droplets of water here, but this is one method, this is one product that is sold. There's another product that is sold that looks like this, and what this does is it actually goes, same thing, it goes down inside of your acoustic guitar, and your strings will sit right here. So this will sit, you will never see any of this because this will be on the inside of your guitar, and it will go kind of down into the body like so. And then this will sit in between a couple of your strings, and it will be held on like that. But inside of this also there is a sponge, so you will submerge this in water first. You will wipe down excess, and then you can insert it into your guitar and leave it there in its case, and it will keep your guitar hydrated whenever the relative humidity drops way down. And you can see here that relative humidity has dropped down even further since I just kind of sat this thing down. If I pick it up, it's actually picking up some of the humidity from my fingers, in fact. And when I'm talking as well, it will pick up some changes in humidity. You can see it's gone up from 20%. But if I set this thing down and leave it, it will give me a more accurate measurement of humidity. Another humidifier that's sold and is popular is this one, which is distributed by Herco, and it's called the Guardfather. And what this is, look at the bottom here, Polycons of Van Nuys, California. I guess they made the case. But what this is more of a clay. So rather than a sponge, this clay type substance, and this is fairly hard. It will absorb moisture. So what you do is you drop this into you can drop it down into a big bowl of water, or you can drop it down into your sink as it's full of water. But what you want to do is make sure that this absorbs water completely. So you'll leave it in for about 5 minutes, I think is what they tell you to do. Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah, if you open this, immerse in water for 5 minutes, close it, wipe off the excess water, and then stick this in the case with whatever it is you want to humidify. This is probably one of my favorite ones. I would prefer this one because you can leave this in the case, and actually this lasts for quite a long time. It says to replace the water twice monthly, so this will last about a couple of weeks. And yeah, this, between what's here, these and this will dry out much less frequently than these will. So this is the one I recommend. And also you can put this in the case kind of up beside the guitar. That way you can pull your guitar in and out. You won't keep having to mess with taking these in and out. Now these will probably more thoroughly humidify and more evenly humidify your guitar body on the inside, because they do kind of extend down inside the body. But as long as you have your case closed and you leave it that way, the humidity from this will still get to the entire instrument. So this is the one I recommend. This is my favorite one of what I have here. This is probably a good time to talk about the system that I do not recommend anymore. I used to sell these things at the music store when I managed one, and it's basically sold by Planet Waves, and it's a chemical system. So what this is, you buy these little packets of this chemical substance, and it will take moisture out of the air and replenish moisture into the air as is needed over time. Eventually these packets will wear out and you'll have to buy new ones, and I forgot how long they last, but I've heard some horror stories about these where some owners had problems with them actually leaking out of their packets into the guitars, and they had a huge mess, and they had to take it to a luthier to clean up the mess, and they had all kinds of finish issues as a result. And I don't know about the validity of these claims, but I do know I don't want this to happen to my guitar, so I just stick with water, and plus it's cheaper anyway. The other thing about doing it the old-fashioned way is that you can actually make your own. You can get a plastic baggie, and you can stick a sponge inside your plastic baggie and just leave the one end of the plastic baggie open, and you can stick that down inside your guitar, or you can stick that down beside your guitar, and as long as it's not dripping wet, as long as the sponge is only damp, you're not going to harm your instrument. And as long as the sponge doesn't touch the outside of the guitar, you won't harm the instrument. Now the other option, if you want to humidify your instruments, is to humidify your entire house. Right now we're in my utility room, and this is my HVAC system. And back here on the back of the HVAC system, there's a a humidifier. I have taken it apart because I'm going to do some servicing on it. I've got a little solenoid down here that needs to be replaced that switches a valve on and off that will allow moisture to come up this line right here. So water comes up this water line and down into a container that is contained within here, but the container was all gummed up. This thing had probably not been used in years, which is unfortunate. I mean, anybody who has one of these, if you're not using it, you're really missing out, because it can really make everything a lot more comfortable in the wintertime. And as far as your guitars are concerned, they're going to love you for it if you have something like this. That doesn't mean that you can't also use one of the other smaller humidifiers and keep your guitar cases humidified also, if you're really concerned about it. But this is going to go a long way toward making sure that your acoustic guitars in particular don't start developing cracks. It's not quite as important with electric guitars, but your, things like your fretboards and stuff can still crack on an electric guitar. And I mean, even your bodies can crack if they get dry enough. I'm sure a lot of people out west in the United States, and anybody in desert climates, you will understand the importance of humidity. But yeah, so that's it for this video. If you guys don't have something like this in your house, you're going to have to do something about your humidity for your instruments. But you're also going to want one of these hygrometers, and you can get these online. I'll put a link down in the description where you can pick one up, or you can go to Walmart and pick one up also. But you're going to need a hygrometer at the very least, and also some kind of humidifier. So yeah, that will conclude this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please hit subscribe down below if you have. Also hit the bell to receive all notifications. And for now, y'all take care.